Hi everyone, today we're going to model a plastic box like the one you see in this image here, and this was the original I used as a template. It is a real world object and we're going to model this to scale in Cinema 4D, and we're going to end up with a plastic box that looks something like this. I have prepared a project folder for you with two files. One is for modeling the vertical ribs and one is for modeling the box. We're going to start by modeling the vertical rib. So let's open our project file and get started. Once you've opened the file that we need, which is plastic box vertical rib, you can see the reference image is already in there and we can get started right away. So let's go ahead and add a plane object. I'm going to put this to -z. We need one width segment and one height segment. The entire rib is 34 centimeters high and 2.5 centimeters wide. So let's enter 2.5 for the width, and as for the height, I'm going to enter the height that I need for this bottom part here, which is 4 centimeters. Let's go ahead and make that plane editable, and I'll use axis center to move the axis to the bottom. Let's go ahead and move this down to here, and in edge mode I'm going to select this top edge and extrude this up 1 centimeter. This part here is where the horizontal rib will be, or one of the horizontal ribs. You can see we have two gaps in here, but for now we're going to model this object including the parts that we're going to delete again later. So next we need an offset of 2 centimeters. So let's enter 2. I have switched off real-time update. Let's hit new transform, and then we need to extrude again with an offset of 10 centimeters. And that's all we need to do. Let's go back to model mode, and I'm going to move the axis to the top, and then I'll just use a symmetry object and mirror this on the XZ plane. Let's go ahead and make this editable. We can dissolve this edge here. So right click, select dissolve. Let's go to the perspective view. Oh, there's one more thing we need to do. Let's go back to the front view. I'll select these edges here, and these have a width of 1.5 centimeters. Let's switch to the move tool, go to the modeling axis tab here. I've already moved the x-axis over all the way to -100%. Now we can scale this to 1.5. And in polygon mode, I'm going to select all the polygons, hit D for extrude. Let's create caps. And we need an extrusion or an offset of 1 centimeter. Let's go back to model mode, and I'm going to reset the axis, again using axis center, and I'll move it all the way up to the top. So this is our vertical rib. I'll just make a copy, go to polygon mode, and let's switch to the top view. Grab the rectangle selection tool. I'll just reset the axis, and on the options tab I'm going to switch on tolerance selection and select all of these polygons here and delete them. Let's switch off tolerance selection, select these polygons here, and I'm going to delete those as well. I'm going to optimize just in case, And let's go ahead and save that file. That is our finished vertical rib. And now we can model the rest of the box. If you open up the second project file, you can see we have reference images in the top, front and right views. The dimensions of this box are 110 by 41 by 70, and 41 is the height, 70 is the width, and 110 is the length. However, that includes those horizontal ribs. However, we only want to model this part first without the ribs. And the dimensions for this on the outside are 102 by 41 by 62. So we're going to start with a box and make this 62 for the x-axis, 41 for the y-axis, and 102 for the z-axis. And we need an additional segment for the x and the z-axis. I'm going to make this cube editable and then use axis center to move the axis to the bottom and use reset position scale rotation to put this cube on the floor. And you can find that under commands, character commands, reset PSR. Let's go to point mode. I'll just delete these points, these ones at the back, and also this one here at the top. So we only have 3 polygons left. And now I'm going to use the loop cut tool to create some additional edges. I'll just do the horizontal ribs for now. And then I'm going to select all the points here at the top, move the axis to 100% and change the height to 1. Each one of these ribs is 1 centimeter high. Next I'm going to select these points here, and these have a height of 4 centimeters. Then we have a height of 1 again. And this next section here is 24. And then 1 again. And down here we have a height of 4. And 1 again. Next I'm going to make a loop cut here. Select these points, move the axis over, and we need a width of 20 for these. And let's add a loop cut here. Select these points and change the width to 1 because the vertical ribs have a width of 1 as well. And I'll add 2 more loop cuts for this rib here. And let's select these points, move the x-axis over, and we need a distance of 4.5. Select these points and make them 1 centimeter. Next I'm going to add a loop cut here in the right view for this rib. Select these points. I'll just reset everything for now and move the z-axis over. And here we need a width of 40 centimeters. Let's add another loop cut here. Select these points, make them 1 centimeter. And then I'm going to make loop cuts for all of the other vertical ribs here. And now there's more adjustments, and this time we need to move the axis over to -100. And we have a width of 4.5 here. 1, 14, 1, 7, and 1. In order to be able to connect those vertical ribs with this box here, we also need additional geometry here. So I'm going to add a loop cut here, and we also need one down here. And I'll change the height of these points here. To 2 centimeters. And I'll make these 2 as well. And in the front view, I'm going to add the loop cuts that we need for this hole here. We need one here, here, and here. And the distance between these points here and the bottom edge of this hole is 18.5. The height of that hole is 5 centimeters. And the distance between these two edges here is 10. So that's all the geometry that we need for now. Let's switch to edge mode. I'm going to select these edges here and use bevel. And I'll do an offset of maybe 8.5, and we need some subdivisions. I'll go for 10 here, and let's go to the perspective view. And I'll just check if that will work. So I'm going to select these edges one after another. And we have 12, and we have one polygon right here at the center, which is what we're going to need for the vertical rib that goes onto this area here. So that seems to be fine. Let's select these edges and also these ones. Let's go back to the front view. I'll just reset the axes here. And we're going to do another bevel. And for this one, I'll do, let's see, maybe 3 centimeters. Looks good. Let's deselect everything. I'll just optimize the object. And let's go to polygon mode. I'm going to select all the polygons and extrude them to create the wall. And the wall has a thickness of 1 centimeter, and we need to extrude to the inside. So let's bring up the extrude tool by hitting D on the keyboard. I want to create caps, and we need to go -1 with the extrusion. Then select all the polygons and reverse the normals. And let's switch to the top view. And I'll delete the polygons here on the mirror planes. And we can also delete the polygons we need for that other hole. I'll just go back to the front view so I can see which ones I need to get rid of. So it's these two and these two. And then in edge mode, I'm going to use the bridge tool and close these gaps here. And let's select these two edges here, go back to the front view. I'm going to do another bevel, and I'll do 1.5. And optimize these points here So we should only have 2 left now. I'm not going to worry about the end guns at the moment. Let's deselect everything. You can see we have some points here floating in mid-air. I'm going to optimize the object to get rid of those. And that's looking good. So next what we're going to do is we're going to extrude those horizontal ribs. So in polygon mode, I'm going to use the ring selection tool to select these 4 polygon loops here. And we need to extrude them without caps and using an offset of 4 centimeters. Let's go ahead and clean up the geometry again and delete the polygons on the mirror planes. We can also get rid of this edge loop here. Just double click on one of the edges to select it, and then we can dissolve these edges here. And we don't need these ones either. Or these ones. And the edge loops down here. And I think that's fine for now. However, there is some more geometry that we need. Because these ribs here have a depth of 4 centimeters. The vertical ribs that we're going to insert later have a width of 2.5, and that means we need additional geometry to be able to connect those vertical ribs. So what I'll do is I'll select this edge loop up here and then use the slide tool, and we need an offset of 2.5 in the negative direction, and let's select this edge loop. Same again, but this time we need to go in the positive direction. Forgot to select this edge here. So let's do that again. 2.5. And here we need to go negative. Okay. So I think that's all that we need for now. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to delete some of these polygons. But first of all, I'm going to rename this to plastic box and make a copy. And let's go to polygon mode. And what I'll do is I'll delete all the polygons that I need to get rid of in order to be able to connect the vertical edges, the vertical ribs later. So what we need to do is we need to select these polygons here, and these ones, and these ones, and let's go to the perspective view. And we selected a couple too many. We need to deselect some again. And I think I'll just do this in the perspective view. What I mean is I'll do the selections in the perspective view using the move tool. So we have these polygons here. The next rib will be here. I'm going to hold Shift and left click on this polygon, then hold down Control and Shift and left click on this polygon. This will select the polygons in between. Hold down Shift, left click, Control Shift, left click, Shift left click, Control Shift left click. Now over here, let's make sure to grab the polygons right at the center, which should be these ones here. And then we need these ones here. For some reason I keep moving these, although I don't want to. Okay, so these should be all. Let me just do a check in the front view and in the right view. If you want to, you can set a selection for these polygons and make another copy. Better be safe than sorry. Sometimes it's really helpful to have a lot of objects that you can go back to in case anything goes wrong. I'm going to delete these polygons now. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in the vertical rib that we modeled at the beginning of this video, and we're going to combine the vertical rib with the geometry of our plastic box. I'm going to copy the vertical rib from our other project file, and for this one I've already moved the object axis up to the top. If you haven't done so, now would be a good time to do that. I'm going to copy this object and paste it into my other file here, and what I'll do right away is I'll snap it to this edge here, and then we can just move it over. And I'm going to make a copy of this. Let's go ahead and hide that one. And for the copy, I'm going to move the object axis to this point at the top here. Let's switch off the object axis. And now we can use the move tool. I'm going to zoom in to this area here. Just left click and drag your mouse and snap to this point here. And let's make a copy. I'm going to move it over, snap it to this point, make another copy, and move this over to here. And I'll make one more copy, and I'll move this straight over and rotate it 90 degrees. And for this one, I'm going to put the object axis to this point here. And then I'm going to snap it to here. And I'll make another copy that I'm going to snap to this point here. And it looks like I screwed up here. Let's select our plastic box. Go to edge mode. And I need to create a polygon here. Okay, so far so good. Let's select this vertical rib here. I'll make another copy and snap it to here. This vertical rib and this one need a rotation of 20 degrees. One this way and the one over here this way. So let's start with this one. I'll just go to the top view, hit S on the keyboard to center the object here, and I'm going to rotate this, holding down Shift, 20 degrees. And then let's select this vertical rib here, and we need to rotate this 20 degrees this way. And then we need another copy right here. And in order to make placing this copy a little bit easier, what I'll do is I'll just create a polygon here and select it, and I'm going to split it off, delete the polygon again. So this is our ref poly. Let's hide that plastic box. And I'll use the original vertical rib. Because it still has the object axis here at the top center, but actually we need to move it over to this edge here. And I'm going to use axis extension to do that. So with the move tool selected and snapping switched on, I'm going to hold down Control, right click on the x-axis, snap it to here. We also need to switch on the object axis, of course. And I'm going to snap it to the end of the object here. So now we can move it and snap it to the midpoint here, and for this you need to switch on midpoint snapping in the snap settings. And I'm going to rotate this rib minus 45 degrees. Maybe we need to rotate this a little bit further. Let's just go to the top view. I'll just use axis extension and line it up with this polygon. So we're not getting exactly 45 degrees, but it's going to match up better with the geometry here. Let's delete that reference polygon. Make our plastic box visible again. And let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I put this in the wrong place. We need to move this over to where these polygons are here. Let's go ahead and select the plastic box. And using the polygon pen, I'm going to close these holes again. I forgot to close the hole up here. And I'm going to delete these polygons. Let's just quickly create another one here. I'm going to split that off, delete it again. Hide that plastic box. Select our vertical rib and I'll move it and snap it to the center of this edge here. And that's why -45 degrees didn't work before, because I placed it on the wrong polygon. Okay, so that hopefully will work now. There's some work we need to do here and for these two ribs, but the other one we could actually try and connect with the plastic box. So I'm going to select these 4 ribs here and the plastic box, and I'm going to use connect objects and delete. And let's go to point mode, deselect everything and optimize the object. And I'll put this in a subdivision surface object to see how that looks. And it seems to deform all right, so no issues so far. I'll just hit undo. And now let's take care of those other ribs here. And the first thing I want to do is, in the top view, I'm going to select the points over here at this end. And I'm going to, well, actually the ones here should be in the position where they should be. We only need to move these points here and snap them to this edge here. And we need to do the same thing over here. So select these points, move them back and snap them to this edge here. And maybe let's just go ahead and check that. Yeah, we do need to move these back a little bit and snap them to this edge here. And next I'm going to select the plastic box and we need to adjust the position of some of the points. So let's use the move tool. I have snapping switched on. If you click close to a point, Cinema 4D will select it. You don't need to exactly click on that point. And that's kind of important because some of these points that we need to select are hidden behind the geometry, like this one. If I left click here, I have it selected and I can now drag it and snap it to the corner of the vertical rib here. So we'll do the same thing with the other points. Now the one at the back here should be okay. We'll need one down here. And we have these additional edges here that we need to get rid of, but we'll do that in a minute. First of all, let's continue and line up the rest of these points. Just going to deselect everything. I'll try and find the right point. Seems to be this one. Snap it to here. Now over here we seem to be okay. I'll just switch the display to constant shading, which will help. Seeing things a little better. And we also have an additional edge loop here that we need to get rid of. But we're going to worry about that a little bit later. Now let's continue down here. Okay, that's this one done. Let's move on to this one. Now over here, the points on this side should be in the position where they need to be. So we only need to, it's this rib here. So the points over here on the left should be fine. And we need to adjust the points over here on this side. So let's go ahead and try and find that vertex. Just double checking. This one's okay, it just looks a bit wonky because we still have these edges here. Let's continue and snap some of these points. And you can always drag these out a little bit to see if you can see through the geometry to make sure you pick the right point. Okay, so that's looking good, I think. And we also need to adjust the points here. Let's go from bottom to top. These ones are easier because none of the points will be hidden. Okay, so now let's get rid of the additional edge loops. I'll just switch the display back to Guru shading with lines. So we don't need these edges here, so I'll dissolve them. So let's see over here. What we could do is maybe weld these 2 points. And let's go ahead and weld these 2. I'll just remove this edge. And we're also going to remove the end guns. but for now I'm mostly concerned with the additional edges that I don't need. And it looks like I accidentally deleted the wrong ones here. I just have to go back a few steps. So we do need these ones, but we don't need these ones. Okay, so that's looking a little bit better. I'll just dissolve these edges for now. And before I clean up the rest of the geometry, let's go ahead and combine all of the objects and see if everything's working. So I'll just select these four, the 3 ribs and the plastic box, and use connect objects and delete, deselect everything and optimize, and let's put this in a subdivision surface object, and that's looking good. There's another test we could do using a bevel deformer. I'm going to put one as a child, and this seems to be working as well, which is brilliant. For the bevel deformer, I'm going to switch on limit and use angle. Let's bring the offset down to maybe 0.2, and let's bring the subdivisions up to 3. And that's looking good. I'm going to drag this out for now. So everything seems to be working. Now let's see what we can do to get rid of the n-gons and clean things up a little bit more. Now down here I'm just going to select this n-gon and this one down here, and we can simply remove these like so. And over here, maybe let's weld these points, and that means we can dissolve these edges here. And over here, what I'll do is basically the same thing. Let's try to do something like this and dissolve these edges here. And let's have a look over here. And I think what I'll do is I'll just weld these 2 points, which means we can get rid of these edges. And I'll just move these up a little bit. And over here, I'll just move these down a little bit, just to relax the geometry a little bit over here, and then we can select these 2 polygons and remove the n-gons. And here I'm just going to remove this one. Let's go ahead and weld these 2 points. do something like this, which means we can get rid of these edges here. The loop was continued to the other side, but I only want to dissolve the edges over here. And then, no, we can't do that because we're getting, we have this point here, which means we need an edge somewhere here. So let's see if we can do this another way. And let's go back a few steps. I think I'll keep the geometry like this, and what I'll do is I'll just weld these 2 points, which at least gives us a quad here, and maybe we could move this one over and down a bit. And I'll select these edges and just move them over a little bit. Something like this. And let's get rid of this n-gon here. And we still have 2 n-gons left. I'm going to use a plugin which is free, which is called Special Selections, and I can select all n-gons. And we have one here and one here. These are easy to resolve. We can just grab the knife tool and let's go to the front view. I'll just select these points here and move these down a little bit, and then use the knife tool, switch off visible only, snap to this point here and make a cut straight across. I'll optimize, and we still have 1 n-gon left. Let's go ahead and find it. For some reason the knife tool didn't make the cut. I'll just do that again. Switch off or switch on visible only, and I'll make that cut here. So that's a little better. We still have 1 n-gon. It's this one. Oh, we have this additional point here. Let's just delete that. Okay. So everything should be fine now. I'm going to rename this to plastic box. Let's go to model mode and check if the object axis is where it needs to be, and it is right at the center. So let's go ahead and use 2 symmetry objects, and I'll mirror this over. So one needs to be, the mirror plane of one of these needs to be XY and the other one ZY. Let's go ahead and add the bevel deformer as a child of the plastic box. Let's do a render, and that is looking pretty nice. So this is the finished model. The last thing I'm going to do is I'll show you what I used for the final render. This is not part of the tutorial, it's just for your information. So this is my file with the original object. In this one I forgot to place the rib here at the correct position, but never mind. So what I used for as a material is a plastic material from Greyscalegorilla's Texture Kit Pro. Probably not the current version, I stopped upgrading a while ago. And for the render I used the Nikomedia Scene Rig. And here I didn't make a lot of changes, I just added some reflection to the floor. I increased the reflection strength a little bit and that was it basically. And for the HDRI settings I increased the light intensity. The file I used for the render is the default one that is opened when you add the Nikomedia Scene Rig. And for the render settings I used some ambient occlusion, and because this is a real world size I decreased the maximum ray length to just 5 centimeters, and also I changed the color to something that matches the color of that plastic box. In this case I made this a dark blue. Other than that, the render settings for the global illumination are just the default, and this is what the render looked like. So this is the end of this tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you again soon.